Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another not so late night edition of the Missing Links post game podcast live stream. I think I'm just going to say all of the buzzwords, and that's just what this will be called. But
You nailed
I'm
it.
your host, Andrew Dukowitz, beat reporter for Zone Coverage. I cover the Lynx, Wolves, and Women's Golden Gophers for the website. And today we got hitting the hardwood founder, Mitchell Hanson, Winsidr extraordinaire and CanisHoopus alum. How's it going, man?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? I'm making my rounds on the Hitting the Hardwood Network podcast here this week. So earlier today before the game, I was with Terry on his Lynx Happy Hour podcast. Now I'm here with you. So people are gonna be sick of hearing my voice, but that's okay.
Man, I say that literally every week. I'm like, people are going to get so sick of hearing me. And then all of a sudden, here we are.
Yep.
Well, Ben jumps in the chat immediately and says the Nebraska game. So do you want to just get into Jessica Shepard really quick? I mean, what in the world was that tonight? That was the most impressive Jessica Shepard game I've ever seen.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the thing is, like, so I was watching and I had the box score up next to me, but I didn't even realize she was that close until like midway through the second quarter. I'm like, holy crap, she's on a tear. But man, she's always, or she has been a do-it-all player. I mean, throughout her career, but specifically this year. And man, she was unbelievable tonight.
It was funny because even in the post game, she mentioned she didn't know that she was like on that path. And then because I'm the snarky beat reporter, I asked her, like, did you really not know you almost had a triple double going into halftime? And she was like, no, like, honestly, my teammates had to tell me.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like sometimes that's cliche when players say it. With Jess, I actually believe it. Like, I think she just goes out there and hoops, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. She's just that nitty gritty style player. And I know you'll probably touch on this a little bit, but she reminds me so much of Rebecca Brunson. And it's ironic that Rebecca Brunson's on the staff as an assistant coach, but she reminds me so much of her, that the physicality, yes, but just the go in and just grittiness and just want to win. That's Jess Shepard. And those players are so invaluable. They are very valuable to have on your team. So she's awesome. And she if she scores 2 points and has 2 rebounds and the team wins, she's just as happy as if she has a 20-point triple double like she did tonight, which says a lot about her character.
I mean, she said as much right after the game finished up when we got her I shouldn't say right after the game. They rightfully were celebrating a little bit in the locker room, I'm assuming. But when she came out, she was like, I'm glad we got the win, because the triple double means nothing if they don't get the win.
Yeah.
Yesterday I asked her about getting that 8-second violation, and that the 8-second violation at the end of the game setting up Courtney's attempted heroics, we'll call it that. And Jess said the same thing. Like, the 8-second violation gives us a chance, but we didn't do anything. We lost the game.
Right.
And I mean, I agree with you. It's such a like old school player mentality where it really is just wins or losses. And Bryson, one of the Lynx and Wolves media guys that works the camera behind all of the lovely YouTube videos that we see, asked Shepard afterwards, like, hey, I saw you share a moment with Rebecca Brunson after the game. And Jess got pretty emotional and pretty choked up, just saying, like, BB has seen everything she's gone through and knows what's going on, and like told her she was proud of her. And I think that stuff means more to a Jessica Shepard than the triple double probably ever will.
Yeah. And like I said, it says a lot about her character, just who she is. And she, I mean, everybody knows kind of her story. She's been through a lot over the last couple of years. I mean, you don't know when you leave the WNBA, you don't know if you're ever going to really get back, because there are so many limited spots. And now, she is back, and she's making most of this opportunity. And it's unfortunate that it had to happen with Fee being down, of her going into the starting lineup. But she's proving her value tenfold over these last 2 weeks that fee's been out.
It also just, Cheryl talks about it a lot, of getting players that don't have the disease of me, right? Like getting people that are selfless. And I mean, Jess, it says a lot that she came back this year to the Lynx, because she probably could have stayed one more year overseas, been a free agent in the new CBA, got paid, and instead she's come back and embraced. I mean, for someone with Jess's skill level,
right?
I mean, she shouldn't be playing 15 minutes a game. She should be starting somewhere, which leads into MB over on Twitter asks, if Jess were to start when Fee is back, would she take Land's spot, or will she keep coming off the bench? I'll just throw it right to you, Mitch.
I think she'll, and this isn't a knock on Jess, but she'll go back to the bench. I mean, you have Land, who's arguably defensive player of the year. You have to start her. Not saying that, Jess in coming off the bench is not a bad thing by any means. I mean, you can come off the bench and still play, 30 minutes a game if that's how it works out. I mean, it just because you're coming off the bench doesn't mean that, you're limited in your impact. She'll see plenty of time. I mean, as we've seen with Cheryl in her rotations in the past, if you make the most of your minutes, you're going to get more minutes. And that's what Jess does. And she'll be, the sixth, maybe seventh player on this rotation, and she'll get plenty of time. But the nice thing is too, is you can, with Jess, you can throw in that physicality alongside Land too, if you want to. You can move Fee down to the 3 and play a little bit bigger, which is something that they'll probably have to do in the postseason, especially when you're playing that chess match. But it's a nice thing to have a player like that who is a starting caliber player. I mean, there's 3 players, maybe I would say 3 players on the Lynx bench that could start in this league. Yeah. And when you have those style of players, even when you're fully healthy, that goes such a long way in the postseason, because another team doesn't have to just game plan for your starting 5, but they have to game plan for 8, 9 players. And that's a lot. And especially when the second unit on the other team comes in, you get those second unit players from the Lynx that are coming in and just kind of picking things up where the starters left off. And, but now I'm rambling, but long story short, I would say that, I do think Jess will go back to the bench. And like I said, that's not a knock on her by any means. That's not to diminish what she's done and who she is as a player, but it's just kind of the reality, I think.
And Mike Cook of the Pioneer Press, shout out Mike. He asked Cheryl that exact question of, what do you do with Jess when Fee comes back? And Cheryl's never going to tip her hand, but she kind of alluded to the same thing of everyone's going to understand when Napheesa Collier is healthy that someone's going to have to go to the bench. And I mean, the way she answered it, I think the assumption is it'll be Jess, but I mean, you're right with that 3 big lineup. Fee had played a little bit of 3 before, they kind of went into injury issues and started just rattling off these wins. But I do think that's an ace in the hole that they have, where it could be those 3 playing, and then you have a bunch of size and length. And it's not like Jess is like a slouch guarding in space. I'm going to throw us over to a ad read here quick, and then I do want to keep touching on the bench because Natisha Heidemann also had just a ridiculous game today. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And fun fact, Firehawk Construction now has a website and Facebook page. that offers free inquiries. So you don't have to call Isaac, which I'll be honest, there are people in the world like my delightful wife, Kelsey, who would sooner die than call somebody on the phone. And for people like my delightful wife, Kelsey, who can definitely hear me right now, there is now an online inquiry where you don't even have to call anyone. So
let's go, Kelsey.
Firehawk Construction, can't recommend him enough, now has online footprints. Mitch, I mean, we talked about Jess just being able to kind of fill in and be a starter off the bench, but T kind of did the same thing. I mean, rough night for Court last night. Cheryl kind of alluded in when I asked her about it after the game of just, Court's dealing with, I think she called it a physical malady, if I'm remembering right, which is the most Cheryl Reeve way to describe an injury ever.
Her vocabulary is A+.
She's just great. I will concede that she is my favorite person to talk to in sports. But I mean, T stepped up huge, and they really needed Kelsey in the chat, by the way. I definitely know my wife was listening. So woot woot indeed. There we are. A physical ailment. Thank you, McKinney. What do you think of T tonight, though? I mean, there's some games where it's just kind of eye-popping how good she can be.
Yeah, she had one of those games tonight. I mean, it's, I'm just looking at her stat line, 6 of 10, perfect 2 for 2 from 3. I mean, she did a little bit of everything. She did +8 off the bench in 27 minutes, which is high coming off the bench. But, it's so important to have somebody like that can come in. And that's something that Minnesota really hasn't had, in past seasons, before T got here. But, they haven't really had that. They've kind of pieced things together since Lindsay Whalen retired before adding Courtney Williams and Natisha Heidemann. But, having the kind of two-headed monster as floor generals, that, either player can have an on night. We've seen nights where Courtney Williams is just on fire, and that means that T isn't going to get a lot of time, and vice versa. But it's such a valuable thing to have. And also it's been really fun to watch her in year 2. And that's something that, Courtney Williams is even dealing with. Just you can sense that both of them are a little bit more comfortable, and they just feel confident in what they're doing. And also their energy. I don't think I need to be telling anybody that they give off incredible energy, but their energy, it makes me want to jump through a wall when I'm watching them. But it's extremely valuable to have a player like that. And especially coming off of, I was talking to Terry Horseman about this on his podcast before the game. The bench against Atlanta was not great. I mean, it was a very unlike Minnesota performance off the bench, where they struggled and they had a quiet night, and that made a big difference. And, having even just one player off the bench like that, maybe it's, T one game, maybe it's, Dejanay another game. And then when Jess Shepard moves back to the bench, maybe it's her. I mean, just having that, kind of constant rotation of who it might be. But they need one player that can step up like that off the bench. And that goes a heck of a long way, especially when you get down to the, final stretch of the season and in the postseason. But yeah, I can't say enough great things about T this year. She's been phenomenal off the bench.
Yeah, I kind of talk about it quite a bit on this pod of just like, I'm trying not to be a homer, but it is kind of unfair just what the Lynx have built here, because they have the potential MVP in Fee. They have a potential defensive player of the year in Lan. They have 3 all-stars in Court, K-Mac, and Fee. And then they have 2 people that are in the odds for sixth person of the year?
Sixth player of the year.
6th player of the year in Shep and T. And I mean, if Dejanay was on this team the entire year, she probably would have been in that category as well. It's just, I mean, there's been a couple people in the chat have just talked about the rotations that Cheryl can do. Andrew in the chat says, either Jess or T wins 6th player of the year. Completely agree. I mean, it's just, this team does have 8 starters. And you mentioned earlier, when you're in a playoff series, it's so hard to try and figure out what to game plan, because they are such different starters. Lan and Jess are almost polar opposites. I mean, outside inside shooting, defensive versus rebounding. And you have kind of the same thing with T and Court, where T attacks the rim, gets a lot of paint moves, and Court is mid-range 3-point. It's going to cause coaches problems.
Yeah, it honestly reminds me a lot of the 2017 team. Even, stretching beyond that or before that. But I remember that season, looking at that team, and I'm like, man, there's 5 players off the bench that could start. Like, this is a 2, starting lineup team that they're rolling out every game. And teams, talked about all the time, are opposing coaches or even opposing players, that they're just such a hard team to scheme against. This team reminds me a lot of that, where, you can just kind of plug and play with different players, and you don't have that everywhere. I mean, you definitely, it's a very rare thing to have, especially with the salary cap situation, to get a team like that. And to also get them all to buy in and not have to deal with egos and stuff off the bench, or, players not getting enough minutes or whatever it may be. It's just tough to find have that style of team. And, I remember when Cheryl said was it the All-Star break? I think it was right before the All-Star break. She said she's been a part of some great teams in the past, and all those teams had those characteristics and had it.
Yeah.
And she said this team has it, and it has a lot of talent. And that was before Dejanay Carrington was added to the team. So it's just amazing to I thought last year's team had decent depth, and this year's team is just even deeper, which is scary, just considering what the Lynx did last year with that team.
I mean, Chechi doesn't play on this team.
No,
I don't know if would play. Maisha Hines-Allen, I don't know if she would play on this team either. Honestly, like she wouldn't get minutes over Jess.
Right.
You're 100% right. Like they lost the championship by a few minutes, and then they went out and everyone got better. I mean, across the board, everyone's having better seasons, and now they're just kind of on this path. There's a lot of people. Well, first off, Rosanna, yes, embarrassment of riches. I thank you for saying it, so I wouldn't have to say it, because then I feel like a homer when it's really just they are literally the best team in almost everything. So it's hard to.
I'm sorry.
It's hard to be objective and also not feel like a homer when it's the team that I know these people now. I'm pulling for them to win.
Yeah. Well, and let's not forget, and not to get too far ahead, but this team will also have a top 4 pick in next year's draft. So I don't know. They're going to have to expand to 15 players on roster, because I've
mentioned it a couple times. They might have the top pick, depending on how Chicago finishes out, in a year where they change the draft qualifications.
Yeah.
I mean, they could easily do that with 2 expansion teams coming in. They could say, all right, 20 years old, time of the draft, you can be eligible. And then you're picking between Betts, AZ, and Juju? Like, it could be obnoxious. There has been a couple people in the chat here, and we'll acknowledge real quick. K-Mac also was awesome tonight.
Yes. Yeah.
BC hit a huge shot at the end of the game, and it seems like BC's back. But I want to get your thoughts on this too. There's been quite a few people from MB, Mary Beth, just bringing up that we are going to lose people this offseason, and I think that is like an important reality to talk about, of just this team either isn't going to be able to pay everyone, or these 3 players on the bench that are starters are going to go start somewhere. Have you started to kind of think about what the roster might look like in years coming?
Well, it is tough too. Yes, obviously they have expansion too that they have to take into account, but it's also interesting to think about, what is the future of Dorky Juhas too, in how where does she fit in if she comes back next year? So they have some tough decisions to make, but I could see, I absolutely love Jess Shepard. I know Cheryl is a huge Jess Shepard fan, but I could see her getting paid. I mean, she's getting, even in just this 2-week span. I know I was texting you off to the side during the game. Like, she's making a case to get some big time money when the new CBA hits. And, Dejanay Carrington is probably, trying to showcase, what she has, so that she can get an even bigger opportunity next year. And maybe that's with Minnesota, maybe it's somewhere else. But I mean, it's going to be tough. And yes, there are going to be players that, are on this roster that make an impact that will be gone, whether it's leaving to take money elsewhere, or maybe it's, expansion draft related. But that's just the unfortunate part of it. And with the league growing too, and also, salaries going up, that's just the reality. And I know that, there will be players that'll come in behind the players that do leave that fans will enjoy just as much. But you got to that's why it's so important to make the most of this season. And Cheryl always says, and even, K-Mac has said it the last, I don't know how many off seasons, that you never have the same team another year. I mean, this team will not be the same next year. And that's, I'm saying that, and this team has the same starting five as it did last year. So, it's a completely different team. So it does change. It will change. It changes league round. And it's kind of the unfortunate part, but that's just reality.
Well, and in the WNBA too, I mean, when someone leaves in the NBA or like in football or baseball, like they're already making life-changing money. I mean, a veteran minimum contract in the NBA is $3 million. Like that is already, that person is probably the richest person I know, or anyone in the chat knows, and they're on a vet minimum. In the WNBA, like the difference between a role player and a starter is, hey, I don't have to play overseas this summer or this winter. Yep. I don't have to like scrap and claw to be able to pay for a mortgage. Like it's actually like, I wouldn't blame any of them. Like if Shepard had an offer to make 200,000 somewhere,
like you have to.
Yes, you have to. That means you don't have to leave the country to like facilitate your salary. Same with BC's another person that I've kind of been wondering about, of just, I think she's so much more talented than we really use her for, but that's her role here. I think she's another one that could get paid to go somewhere else. And again, like I wouldn't fault any of these people. Whereas in other sports, it's kind of like, really, did you need the extra 2 million? But yeah, the Lynx are just, it's going to be a tough off season. Cause I mean, I don't know. Do you have a sense of anyone that's currently locked in other than like Fee and K-Mac are probably as close to set in stone as you can get?
Yeah. I mean, Fee and K-Mac, I think you protect them at all costs. I'd maybe even throw Lan in there just with how she's been playing this year and how important she is on both ends of the floor. When it comes to Courtney and T, I mean, I have a hard time seeing those two get broken up. I feel like they're gonna be a package deal wherever they want to go, or if they want to stay here. It's tough. I mean, out of the starters, I would say probably BC would be a player that, I could see her maybe getting a like you said, kind of a bigger opportunity elsewhere. This is not a knock on Bridget. She's awesome. And I mean, she was a team best plus 11 tonight here against Indiana. But, she's a player that you could probably fill a little bit easier than, maybe some of the other names that I had mentioned. But you could probably fill her spot with somebody. Maybe it's maybe it's DJ Carrington, somebody like that. But it's tough. I do not envy Cheryl because I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Because even BC, I mean, there was some heat earlier in the year about her getting benched or benching her for like a Diamond when Diamond was still here, and like it's hard to give her justice of like how much she means to this team from like a level-headed standpoint. I mean, she is a lot of times the adult in the room. She is a lot of times the person that kind of locks in and gets that defensive stop. She's also like the homegrown talent, right? Like she gets drafted here, fights her way up from a bench spot to a more of a bench spot. Last year, she kind of takes the starting lineup role, and like those players just, it's always hard to see them go. Mini me in the chat over on Twitter, do we know the expansion rule, how many players can be protected? I'm just gonna, I've been hearing so many different things about how they are going to do this, and I don't think the WNBA has any idea what they're going to do yet. If they do an expansion draft, 90% of the league is free agents. So if you're an unrestricted free agent, theoretically, you can't be protected or drafted. That doesn't seem fair for Seattle or Toronto, or not Seattle or Toronto, and who's the other expansion?
Portland, isn't it?
Who? Portland? Yeah.
Portland.
Almost Seattle, Portland.
Basically,
like that doesn't seem fair that you get to have these expansion picks and you're picking between a restricted free agent or Ola Kosu. I've heard other like NBA writers say maybe they just give them the last pick in the first round, second pick, or the first pick in the second round. I've heard maybe they give them a better chance. Like if the new like high level contract is 400,000, they can offer 450. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they don't have an expansion draft at all, just because this league is in such a weird place. What do you think, Mitch?
Well, and I'm curious if they do something similar to what they did this year, which, by the way, they like postponed announcing how this would work until like the week before. But where
the WNBA is just crazy, man. Like it's one of my favorite things about covering this league is just like,
oh my god,
it's like it has the vibe of like a mom and pop gas station where they're just like, yep, coffee's $3.50 now. I don't know.
Yeah, we're doing it because someone down the street did it.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder if they're going to do something similar where each team can protect up to 6 players, and then beyond that is kind of free game. I have a feeling that's probably going to be the case where you can protect so many players and then they get to kind of select from those players. But I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what to expect. I don't know what they'll do. I have a feeling there will be some form of kind of what we saw to some extent this year. Just because, I mean, you look at Golden State, like, they didn't pick the players that a lot of people thought they would, or they didn't, fill the roster like a lot of people thought they would, but they're doing just fine in their first year, which is unexpected, but it is a testament to the expansion draft and just maybe how well that does work. So I do think that they're probably going to do something similar, but that being said, they'll do something completely different.
Yeah. I mean, the expansion teams, I think I say because like it could be anything. They could come out and be like, we're doing carrier pigeons. First pigeon to make it gets the first round pick this year. And I'd be like, all right, whatever. I do
honestly
think
wouldn't surprise me.
Portland and Toronto, I feel like, are pretty like in a year where everyone's a free agent. Those are two cities that I think could really make a run at someone big. Like Toronto is going to show out for a WNBA team. Right. Portland, there's nothing to do in Portland in the summer. No offense to people from Portland, but like I don't go outside much. So like for me, there's nothing to do in Portland during the summer. Like they're going to be draws for players. I think Golden State also is going to be a huge draw, especially with the crowds they bring in. I don't, like, even if they do some weird expansion hybrid thing, I think they're going to just be able to get free agents too. I mean, if you're a Canadian born player, I mean, Bridget Carleton's our Canadian, but like if you're a Canadian born player in the WNBA, why wouldn't you consider going to play in Toronto?
Right. Yeah. They are intriguing markets, especially like you kind of touched on, Golden State too. Like they're in a good spot salary wise with what they did with that roster. So they are in a position to make a splash this offseason, as is like, probably 95% of the league, just because it's 90% of the league because everybody's on an expiring deal this year, it feels like. But I mean, they are an intriguing draw. And I know there are players that like the idea of starting absolutely fresh, clean slate and leading a team like that, and kind of building it from the ground up. There are players that love that, and they will be intrigued by that. And it is, it's lucky too, timing wise, for those two expansion teams that this is a new CBA year where there are a lot of players available.
Yeah.
And that's perfect timing for them. And I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to be able to try and grab some of those big name players. But it's going to be a fun off season. We're probably going to get about an average of 2.5 hours of sleep each night. But
yeah,
you take the good with the bad.
I mean, hey, we get technically paid to talk about basketball. I mean,
that is true.
We are the last people that can complain about not getting sleep to talk about basketball.
Could be worse.
Exactly. I'm going to throw us to another ad here. When we come back, any other fan questions that pop up, more than happy to answer them. I also want to just get into the Nafisa Collier of it all too quick before we let you go, Mitch. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. I don't know why sometimes that includes the .com. I remember saying .com when I recorded that, and sometimes it decides to do the .com, other times it doesn't. And it's always like when I'm ready and have like a quirky response to it not going, it says it. So StreamYard, what are we doing, man? Help me to not do this. Marie asks over on X, do Lynx fans need to root for New York to start winning again so that they return to the 2-3 seed and not be on the same side as the bracket of Minnesota? I'd love to hear your thoughts first, Mitch.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know who I would rather face, whether it be New York or Atlanta, if we're comparing the 2 or 3. Obviously New York doesn't have Brianna Stewart right now. So you get an MVP caliber player back into the lineup. That makes a huge difference, as Lynx fans will see when Nafisa Collier comes back. But I don't know. Atlanta has had Minnesota's number, so I would love, I guess, to see, if we're basing it off of what we've seen so far. I'd like to see New York, but I also am kind of, I don't know. I would love to see a New York Minnesota rematch in the finals, and I would like to have that matchup be in the finals rather than in the semifinals or wherever it may be. So I don't know. I would like to maybe see New York stay there, but stay in the 2, but we'll see what happens.
I will say, selfishly, as somebody who likes to consume basketball for like enjoyment, I want 7 games of New York, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like that is the like, if I could put like a hierarchy of needs, that's at the top, right? Like I need that series to be 7 games, not 5, not 3, 7. So for me, I'm going to be rooting for New York to get back up into 2 because like I selfishly want that series. Like I just think that's a series that'll go 7. Both teams, I mean, New York is like by definition a super team. They have 3 MVP caliber players surrounded by like all-stars, and then you have Minnesota, who has just organically built this ragtag group of players that all buy in. Like that's, yeah, a lot of people have sent me messages kind of comparing it to the Spurs Heat rematch in the NBA, the year after the Ray Allen shot. And honestly, that's what I want to see. I want to see that matchup so we can see if it is like that, where the Lynx still probably don't have the top end talent, but they just take it because they wanted it more. Right. Marie mentions New York is currently the 4th seed, which means a semi matchup. That would be tough. I really want it to be if they could be in the finals, that would be best for me. And everyone knows that like that's what the WNBA focuses is what's best for us.
They write the script based on what you want.
Yeah. I did, believe it or not, I was the one that was like, wear the New York skyline dress. And then it happened. It was crazy. I didn't have a podcast at that time, so none of you knew about it. But Mitch, I mean, Fee upgraded questionable today.
Yeah.
Obviously didn't play. Looks like she's been, first off, Lynx fans, you guys are crazy in the best way, because when I get sent DMs of Fee wearing the starters practice jerseys, you guys are next level. But it by Twitter sleuthing, it sounds like Fee is practicing with the starters. How realistic is it to expect her back Sunday?
I think there's a real shot that she's back Sunday. She was doing pregame warm-ups. You don't do that if you're not really close. And I do think that, she was probably pushing to play in this game. And I don't know if that was a realistic thing or not, but I do think that she will, if she doesn't return Sunday, she's back after that. I can't guarantee it, but I would like to put money down on that. But if I had to predict, I think she'll be back Sunday. Just being back at home, being back in front of the crowd, I think it's perfect timing. There's 8 games left. Yeah, 8 games left. Just kind of get her feet wet, get back, incorporate her back into the lineup, especially with Dejanay now in and not having played with Fee. So just kind of get everybody back incorporated together and hit the ground running for the end of the year. But I do, if I had to predict, I would say Sunday. But there's no reason to rush her back. I mean, they have a huge lead on the number 1 seed. They basically have it wrapped up. So I'd love to see her back just to kind of solidify the MVP in that race and kind of separate herself a little bit more. But you got to do what's best to think beyond the regular season, and that's what Minnesota's doing.
I think the other side of it too is if Fee was 100%, they're not going to be able to keep her off the court.
Right.
Like Fee, even though she kind of has the aw shucks demeanor, and what'd she do today? She did an I love you mom to the camera. Like Fee is not the brash, like psycho competitive player. Fee has that like inside of her. If she was good to go, she would have played tonight. It's not a conspiracy theory. I'm guessing she went through warm-ups and must have felt some discomfort or something that the trainer was like, no, you're not playing. I think it's realistic she's back on Sunday. The last thing I want to ask you, and it's actually something Travis Singleton, sneaker reporter, asked me when we did our little collab after the New York game, was just, where do you think Fee's MVP chances are at this point?
I still think she's a front runner. I do think it's maybe dwindled a little bit, just as far as, Las Vegas is playing incredible. A'ja Wilson's playing out of this world right now. So I think it did narrow the gap a little bit. That being said, I do think Fee will win it by a decent margin. But I mean, if you would have asked me this question, maybe, middle of the season, or maybe even a little bit after the All-Star break, I would have told you that Fee would have been almost a near unanimous decision for MVP. I don't think that's the case anymore, but I still think she'll win it. And I don't want to say comfortably, but I think it will be a decent margin, and especially if she does come back, let's say Sunday, gets 8 more games under her belt, and she will return to Fee form. I do think that, that plays into effect too with the MVP race, with just, how well your team has done too. Now it is kind of more, sometimes it does play into effect, whether it's awards, MVP awards or other awards, but people remember what you did most recently.
Yep.
So that's where you could kind of make an argument for A'ja Wilson kind of creeping back up there. But that's why I think it would be important to just at least get feedback onto the floor, and then kind of see where things go. But I think she'll win it. What do you think?
I don't think it'll be unanimous anymore. I think it'll be, I don't think she'll win it comfortably. I think she'll win it. I think Asia's going to get a lot of votes because that Aces team has no business rattling off this many wins. I mean, they were below 500 at one point.
Yeah.
And she is it is by sheer force of will that A'ja is just bringing it up here. Andrew wants to know what the chances are for a lockout. 40%.
Yeah.
I don't think it's likely, but I think it's possible. So I'd say 40.
Yeah. If we were middle of the off season and they were in the current state, I would say I'd be a little bit more worried, but I think we got to let the regular this season play out and then kind of go from there. But I mean, it's a constant, push pull with this kind of stuff, and they'll sit down and hopefully figure something out.
I think the most encouraging thing is everyone seems acutely aware how bad a lockout would be. Like, I think the players know that a lockout would kill this momentum, just like it did with hockey. I think the owners know that they are investing a ton of money in this and would lose a ton of money in a lockout. Rich people like to make more money, whether you're a 100,000-aire or a billionaire. That money is going to be a very big driving factor to figure it out. I'm gonna MB here says, do you think Asia will win Defensive Player of the Year? I'm gonna be honest. I think the Smith narrative is starting to take off enough to where these games without Fee and how well Smith is played, I could see Smith officially kind of having that locked up. How about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I do think that they'll, there will be some internal marketing pushes, I think, here in the next, last 8 games of the year to kind of maybe try and sell that to the voters. I could definitely see that, especially if, Fee kind of gets back to form and it appears that she might have the MVP wrapped up or whatever it may be. I could see them kind of focusing a little bit more on Smith and kind of giving her a little bit of a push. But I mean, Asia Wilson will always be, even if she has an average year, she's going to be considered for Defensive Player of the Year. She will be considered for that. She will probably be right there. But I don't know. I think that one's going to be very tight. I think that vote is going to be very tight as well. It's similar to kind of what like 6th Player of the Year is, or has been in years past.
Last question I have for you, Mitch. Will Caitlin Clark get over? Let's set the odds at 1.5 MVP votes, despite only playing 13 games. Will she get over 1.5 or under?
I think she'll get over. I think there will be at least a couple people that give her an MVP.
A wild world.
Yep. I really do think a couple of voters will give her an MVP. And if Terry Horseman's listening, he has a vote this year. So if he can help me out here, if we're putting money down, you want to help me out here, Terry, and give me a vote for Caitlin. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, Mitch. I appreciate you coming on, man. Always fun. For people that joined in late, this pod will be published tomorrow morning. That'll be Saturday at 7 a.m. if you want to listen to it in its entirety. The second we finish recording, it's already rip-roaring ready to go on YouTube. So if you're really wanting to stay up late, that'll already be good. But 375 people coming through the live tonight. I appreciate all of you guys, Lynx fans. You're why we're doing this. So Mitch, anything you want to plug, anything you got to say before we get out of here?
No, I just want to kind of echo that of appreciate everybody obviously tuning into this, listening to all of our podcasts under the Hitting Hardwood Network. And it's been, not to get sentimental here, but 3 years ago, I started this thing, and I did not expect this, and it's been awesome. And like you've said all along, Lynx fans deserve this, and we're doing our darndest to provide it. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, because none of this happens without people watching, people following, people listening, and everything in between. So no, please continue to follow our ramblings, and I guess if I have to do more of these post-game live streams, I will 100% do that if that's what it takes. So
live streams are so much more fun than podcasts. I if I could get the entire world to do live streams, I would. But again, thank you, Mitch. I appreciate you, man. And to everyone else, game on Sunday. Let's go Lynx.